When reality bends indoors, whisper, Clara's first night at Hawthorne Heights. In a decaying apartment complex haunted by secrets, Clara Bennett discovers a mysterious door that vanishes by morning and reappears wider each night. What begins as a strange anomaly spirals into a terrifying journey through time, loss, and the building's darkest truths. In this chilling opener, reality starts to fray, and Clara steps into the unknown. When 24-year-old Clara Bennett moved into her new studio apartment in the crumbling Hawthorne Heights complex, she thought the worst part would be the flickering hallway lights or the neighbors who never answered their doors. But on her first night, after a power outage plunged the building into darkness, she stumbled upon something impossible, a door in her living room that hadn't been there earlier. Etched with strange symbols and radiating a cold, metallic hum, it vanished by morning, only to reappear the next night, slightly more open. Now, Clara's caught in a terrifying loop of nights that bleed into the past, shadowy figures who whisper warnings, and a mystery tied to the building's darkest secret, the unsolved disappearance of its former tenant in 1987. As the door's grip on her reality tightens, Clara must decide whether to unravel the truth or become its next victim. The movers dropped Clara's last box with a thud, dust swirling in the late afternoon sunlight slanting through the grimy windows of apartment 4B. Hawthorne Heights had been a compromise, cheap, central, and available in a city where rent prices felt like a personal attack. But as Clara scanned the water-stained ceilings and the warped floorboards that creaked like old bones, she wondered if cheap was worth the smell of mildew and the way the walls seemed to breathe. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister Maya. "How's the haunted mansion?" Clara snorted, typing back, "The ghost says hi. Bring wine tomorrow." She didn't mention the door. Not yet. Because when she'd first toured the apartment, the living room wall had been blank. Now, faint lines outlined a rectangle beneath peeling paint, as if something had been sealed shut. The power went out at 2:17 a.m. Clara woke to the hum of dead silence. No fridge, no traffic, nothing. She fumbled for her phone, its flashlight revealing the room and the door. There, solid, iron black, and covered in spiraling symbols that glinted like wet ink. The air around it rippled, cold enough to sting her lungs. Clara's legs moved before her brain could protest, fingertips brushing the handle. Bang. She jerked back as the door slammed open on its own, revealing not a closet or a wall, but a hallway. Long, dim, and impossibly wrong. The floor was checkerboard tile, the walls papered in faded roses, and at the far end, a figure stood silhouetted beneath a flickering bulb. "Hello?" Clara called, her voice echoing. The figure turned. Its face was a smudge of shadows, but she felt its gaze like static on her skin. Then the light surged back on, and the door vanished, leaving only a faint scorch mark on the floor. Clara didn't sleep again that night. Clara spent the next morning Googling Hawthorne Heights disappearances on her phone, her hands trembling as she scrolled. The building's Yelp reviews were a graveyard of one-star rants. "Roaches! Superintendent is a ghost?" Felt like something watched me from the vents. But buried in a 2008 forum thread about cursed NYC apartments, she found it. "Anyone remember the Hawthorne time slip thing? My grandma lived there in the 80s. Said a woman in 4B vanished, poof, gone. They never found her, but her rent kept getting paid." By who? The commenter's username, ShadowSeeker99, was last active in 2012. Clara screenshot the thread and headed to the city archives, where a bored clerk helped her dig up microfiche newspapers. And there it was, October 31st, 1987. Mystery at Hawthorne Heights, tenant Eleanor Gray, 28. Missing for 14 days. Police find no signs of foul play. The article included a grainy photo. Eleanor had wild curls and a half smile, wearing a leather jacket adorned with enamel pins. A butterfly, a pyramid, a door. Clara's breath hitched. That's the same door. The man in apartment 4A always slammed his door when Clara passed. Late that afternoon, as she fumbled with her keys, his peephole flickered. A voice rasped through the wood. "You seen it yet?" Clara froze. Seen what? The door creaked open just enough to reveal a gaunt face, stubbled and sunken-eyed. He smelled like mothballs and burnt coffee. "The door, in your wall." Her pulse spiked. "How do you... Eleanor talked about it too, before she... changed." He thrust a yellowed journal into her hands. "Take it, and don't go through that thing after midnight." The door slammed. Back in her apartment, Clara opened the journal. Eleanor's handwriting spiraled wildly. October. 1987. The door opens wider every night. I think it's hungry. Last week I touched the handle and saw Mom, but she died in 79. It showed me her laughing in our old kitchen, bacon sizzling, real. How? October 29. The shadow man followed me back. He stands in the corner now. I can't sleep, can't eat. The super says I'm stressed. But I heard him whisper, "Soon." Clara's phone buzzed, a calendar alert. Mom's birthday blinked on the screen. Her mother had died 5 years ago. The door reappeared at 1:03 a.m., now open a full foot. Beyond it stretched the same checkerboard hallway, but this time Clara heard voices. A muffled laugh, a radio playing Sweet Child of Mine. She pulled on her sneakers, Eleanor's journal tucked under her arm. Just 5 minutes. See what's there. Run back. The air beyond the door felt thicker, like wading through syrup. The hallway ended at a stairwell, its walls plastered with 1987 concert posters. Prince, Madonna, The Lost Boys. Downstairs, the lobby glowed with neon, a Pepsi sign, a payphone, a front desk manned by a man in a members-only jacket. "Eleanor!" he called, waving. "Your sister called again. Says you're avoiding her." Clara's blood ran cold. He thinks I'm Eleanor. She fled back upstairs, but her apartment door was gone. Instead, a nameplate. E. Kurzau. Inside, the studio was alive. Plants everywhere, records stacked on a turntable, and a leather jacket slung over a chair. Eleanor's jacket. In the mirror above the sink, Clara's reflection flickered. For a heartbeat, she saw Eleanor's curls, her smudged eyeliner. Then a hand clamped her shoulder, freezing, skeletal. "You shouldn't be here," hissed a voice like static. Clara whirled around. The shadow man from the hallway loomed, his face a void except for 2 pinpricks of red light. She screamed, scrambling backward, and tripped over the threshold of the door, landing hard in her own apartment, 2023. The door was gone, but Eleanor's journal lay open on the floor, a new entry scrawled in fresh ink. "Clara, don't trust the super. He works for them. Find the key." Clara spent hours tapping the warped floorboards of her apartment, listening for hollow sounds. Eleanor's journal had specified, "Beneath the radiator, 3rd plank from the wall." But in 2023, the radiator had been replaced by a dusty baseboard heater. She pried it loose with a butter knife, her fingers bleeding, and found the plank, slightly raised, as if lifted and resealed 1,000 times. Inside the crevice lay a rusted key, its bow shaped into the same spiraling symbol as the door. The moment Clara touched it, a jolt shot up her arm, vivid as a memory. Eleanor, sweating and wild-eyed, pressing the key into the gap while the shadow man's laughter echoed through the walls. Beneath the key was a Polaroid. Clara's breath caught. It showed Eleanor, arm in arm with a woman, in a sunflower print dress. Clara's mother, 20 years younger, her smile untouched by the illness that would claim her. On the back, in smudged ink, "Lena and me, Coney Island, 1986. she promised not to tell. The first time Clara saw him in daylight, she thought it was a trick of exhaustion, a dark smudge in her peripheral vision while she scrubbed coffee stains at the diner. But that night, as she sorted through her mother's old letters, the air turned gelid. He stood in the corner, taller now, his form flickering like a corrupted film reel. Red pinprick eyes locked onto hers. Clara gripped the key, its edges biting into her palm. "What do you want?" she demanded. The shadow man's voice buzzed, layered with whispers. "You opened the door. Now you feed it." He lunged, fingers elongating into claws. Clara swung the key like a knife. It sliced through his arm, scattering ash and static. He recoiled, hissing, and vanished, but not before leaving a frostbitten burn on her shoulder, shaped like a keyhole. The next morning, Superintendent Marlowe knocked. His smile didn't reach his milky left eye. "Heard a commotion last night. Everything secure?" Clara hid her trembling hands. "Just a nightmare." Marlowe's gaze lingered on the keychain dangling from her pocket. "Funny. Tenant before you had nightmares too. Pity she vanished." Clara cornered the neighbor in 4A, holding up the Polaroid. "Who's them? Why did my mother know Eleanor?" The man, Arthur, his nameplate finally revealed, sighed. "They're called the Keepers. Cult freaks who think time's a river you can dam. Your mom and Eleanor were part of it, till they realized the door wasn't a gift. It was a trap." He explained. The Keepers used the door to harvest moments, siphoning joy, grief, even lifespans from the past. But the door demanded balance. For every memory taken, it left a void, a shadow. "That thing chasing you," Arthur said? "It's what's left of Eleanor's brother. The door ate him first." Clara's phone rang. An unknown number. She answered, hearing only staticky breathing, and her mother's voice, warped and distant. "Clara, don't..." The line died. A text popped up. "Midnight. Door open. Come alone or she's gone." Marlowe. Clara stood in front of the door at 11:58 p.m., the key burning in her hand. Marlowe's text had been clear. Come alone or she's gone. But Eleanor's journal entry warned against trusting him. She'd stuffed the Polaroid of her mother and Eleanor into her pocket, a talisman against the fear gnawing her ribs. The door materialized at midnight, wide open, the hallway beyond warped and pulsating. Clara stepped through, the key raised like a weapon. Instead of the 1987 lobby, she found herself in a cavernous chamber lit by oil lamps. The walls dripped with black vines that squirmed like eels. Marlowe stood at a stone altar, flanked by hooded figures, the Keepers. Their chants echoed in a language that made Clara's teeth ache. On the altar lay a glass jar, swirling with silvery light. Inside, a face pressed against the glass. Her mother. "Took you long enough," Marlowe sneered. "Your mom's been chatty. Turns out she and Eleanor planned to destroy the door, but Lena got cold feet when she had you." Clara lunged, but the Keepers seized her. Marlowe pried the key from her fist. "This isn't a key, kid. It's a lockpick, and you just handed us the only thing that can seal the door forever." The chamber shook as the shadow man materialized, his form colossal now. Marlowe bowed. "Welcome home, Elias." The Keepers forced Clara to her knees, pressing her palm to the altar. The room dissolved, and she fell into a memory, not hers. 1986. Coney Island. Eleanor and Clara's mother, Lena, laughing on the boardwalk. Eleanor held up a seashell. "Make a wish, Lenny." Lena closed her eyes. "I wish we could fix this." The shell cracked open, revealing the key. Eleanor paled. "It heard you." Clara gasped back into the present. The shadow man, Elias, loomed over her. His voice fractured into two tones, his own and the static rasp. "They promised to bring me back, but the door, it changes you." Eleanor's voice whispered in Clara's mind. "The burn on your shoulder. It's a conduit. Use it." Clara slammed her keyhole scar against the altar. The chamber erupted in light. The jar shattered, her mother's essence surging into Clara's body. Visions bombarded her. Lena, weeping as she buried the key in 4B. Eleanor, scribbling warnings as Elias's shadow consumed their apartment. Marlowe, young and desperate, striking a deal with the keepers to save his dying wife. Chaos erupted. Elias howled, clawing at his chest as Clara channeled her mother's memories. The keepers' hoods fell back, revealing faces mottled with time, ages shifting, eyes hollow. "You're not immortal," Clara realized. "You're stitched together, patched up with stolen time." Marlowe lunged with a dagger, but Elias intercepted him, dissolving into smoke and reforming. "You lied to me," Elias growled. "You said I'd be human again." Clara grabbed the key and sprinted for the door, now throbbing like a heart. Eleanor's voice guided her. "Lock it! Now!" She jammed the key into the door's symbol. The chamber collapsed, reality shredding. Clara glimpsed fragments. Her mother, young and alive, waving goodbye from a sunlit porch. Eleanor, smiling as she faded into starlight. Arthur, burning the keeper's grimoire in his apartment. Then, silence. Clara woke in her studio. The key melted into a puddle of slag. The door was gone, replaced by unbroken drywall. But on her shoulder, the keyhole scar pulsed. And in the corner, a wisp of shadow lingered. The rifts started small. Clara would blink and see a flickering overlay. A 1950s couple, arguing in her kitchen. A child's chalk drawing on her floor from 1972. But by day 3, entire seconds began to unravel. At work, she poured coffee for a customer and watched his face melt into a Civil War soldier's, his hand clutching a tin cup. When she screamed, time snapped back, the man glaring at her. "Decaf that crazy lady?" Arthur found her vomiting in the alley. "It's the door's death throes," he said, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "You blew up its engine, but the exhaust's still poisoning reality. And that scar," he pointed to her keyhole shoulder, "that's a back door now, for them." That night, Clara dreamt of her mother. Not as a ghost, but alive. Tending tomatoes on a porch Clara didn't recognize. "You have to fix what I couldn't," Lena said, handing her a rusted watering can full of black liquid. "Before the keeper's hourglass runs out." She woke to her phone ringing. The caller ID read, Marlowe. Clara answered, bracing for Marlowe's taunts. Instead, she heard her mother's voice, clearer than ever. "Clara, listen, the key wasn't just a lock, it's a failsafe. Elias was supposed to destroy the door, but Marlowe corrupted him." The line dissolved into static, then a new voice. Elias, strained and human-sounding. "They're using your scar as an anchor. You need to—" A scream cut him off. Clara hurled her phone, but the voices seeped from the walls now, a cacophony of eras. Disco music, air raid sirens, Eleanor humming time after time. In desperation, Clara pressed her scar to the wall where the door once stood. The room ripped. Suddenly, she stood in a sunlit version of her apartment. 1987. Eleanor sat cross-legged on the floor, painting symbols with nail polish. She looked up, eyes widening. "Lena's kid? Oh God, you're here. Quick, help me." Eleanor shoved a shoebox at her, filled with Polaroids and a cassette tape labeled, "For Clara." "I hid this after your mom got pregnant. The keepers were going to use you as a—" The vision shattered. Clara was back in 2023, the shoebox real and heavy in her hands. Arthur showed up at midnight, drunk and clutching a photo album. "I was one of them," he slurred, flipping to a 1979 page. There he was, young, smiling, arm in arm, with Marlowe and a woman Clara recognized, Elias's sister. "We thought we were saving people," Arthur muttered, "stealing time from dictators, disasters. But the door warped us. Marlowe's wife got sick, so he fed her seconds from other people's lives. Then minutes, then years. He pointed to Elias's sister in the photo. She refused, so Marlowe erased her from the timeline. Elias went into the door to find her, and, well, you met him. Clara played Eleanor's cassette. Her mother's voice spilled out. Clara, if you're hearing this, the keepers know about your bond to the door. I tried to break the cycle by keeping you away, but your dad, he was a keeper too. They made him choose. Them or us. He vanished the day you were born. A man's voice interrupted the tape, Clara's father, begging, Lena, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I never wanted. The recording ended with a gunshot. The shadow man materialized fully that night. No longer a monster, but a spectral version of Elias, translucent and flickering. I can't hold them off much longer, he said. Marlowe's rallying the last keepers to turn your scar into a new door. You have to let me in. Why? Clara hissed. Elias's form rippled with pain. Because I'm the only one who knows where they buried the hourglass, and you're the only one who can smash it. When Clara hesitated, he did something unexpected. He sang. A lullaby Clara's mother used to hum, the notes frayed but recognizable. She sang that to me too, Elias said, when I was trapped. Your mom. She tried to save us all. Clara pressed her scar to his shadowy hand. Cold flooded her veins, and suddenly she saw it, the keeper's hourglass, hidden in the building's foundation, its sands swirling with stolen lifetimes. But as the vision faded, she realized Elias was now inside her scar, his voice a whisper in her skull. They're coming, and I can't stop what happens next. Clara followed Elias's directions to the basement, a place even the super avoided. The walls oozed black sludge, and the air smelled of burnt hair. Arthur trailed her, a crowbar in hand. If this goes sideways, he muttered, tell my ex-wife I didn't totally waste my life. Behind a false wall, they found it. The keeper's hourglass, 3 stories tall, its glass etched with names. Clara recognized her mother's, Lena Bennett, Eleanor's, and her own. The sands inside weren't sand at all. They were faces, screaming soundlessly as they drained into the void below. Marlowe emerged from the shadows, his body patchworked with stolen time. One arm was child-smooth, the other withered to bone. Touching, he sneered, but you're too late. He plunged a dagger into Arthur's chest. No! Clara caught Arthur as he fell, blood soaking her jacket. He pressed a lighter into her hand. Burn! It all! He choked. Elias surged from her scar, his shadowy form grappling Marlowe. Go! He roared. Clara climbed the hourglass, the names cutting her palms. At the top, she found a lever and a note in her mother's handwriting. Clara, pulling this will reset the door's timeline. Everything it ever took will be returned. But everyone touched by it will vanish, including me. I'm so sorry. I love you. Mom. Below, Marlowe impaled Elias with the dagger, his shadow dissolving into smoke. You lose, Marlowe spat. Clara closed her eyes, saw Eleanor's journal, her father's voice on the tape, Arthur's body growing cold. No more stolen time. She pulled the lever. The hourglass exploded. Clara fell through a kaleidoscope of moments. Her mother rocking her as a baby, singing the lullaby. Eleanor and Lena burying the key, laughing through tears. Her father, moments before vanishing, writing her name in a ledger of the damned. The building groaned. Marlowe disintegrated mid-scream. Elias, flickering at the edge of existence, met Clara's gaze. Thank you, he whispered before scattering like ash. Then silence. Clara woke in a hospital bed, her scar gone. The nurse said a neighbor had found her unconscious in the lobby of Hawthorne Heights, now a newly renovated boutique hotel. Lucky they didn't bulldoze it, the nurse said. There was talk about a sinkhole in the basement. Back at her rebuilt apartment, Clara found no sealed doors, no shadows, just sunlight and fresh paint. But in the mail, she received a package with no return address. Arthur's lighter, Eleanor's butterfly pin, and a Polaroid of her parents, and Eleanor at Coney Island, all smiling. On the back, time enough. That night, Clara dreamt of a beach. Her mother and Eleanor waved from the shore, whole and unburdened. Elias stood beside them, solid and human, holding a seashell. "Make a wish," he said. Clara woke with salt on her lips and the faint hum of something else in the walls. But when she pressed her ear to the drywall, she heard only the city, alive, relentless, and finally, hers. Thank you for embarking on Clara's journey. This story blended cosmic horror, emotional stakes, and a touch of hope. If you'd ever like to revisit this universe or explore new ones, just say the word.